It was a cold morning when Marcus, a quiet and brilliant young black student, walked into school with hope in his heart. He had always dreamed of becoming someone who could make a difference, but that day his life would take a turn he never expected. The school principal, a man known for his harsh rules and lack of empathy, called Marcus into his office. Without much explanation, he accused him of causing trouble, of being a bad influence, and decided that Marcus no longer belonged at that school. With tears in his eyes and anger boiling inside, Marcus was expelled, not because of something he had truly done, but because of the color of his skin and the stereotypes that still poisoned people's hearts. He left that school with humiliation, carrying a pain that most people could never understand. But what no one knew was that Marcus carried more than pain. He carried resilience. Expelled and heartbroken, he refused to let that moment define him. Instead of giving up, Marcus pushed himself harder. He worked after school, studied late into the night, and found mentors who believed in him. He faced rejection after rejection, but each no only fueled his determination to create his own path. Slowly, he built a life for himself. He became an entrepreneur, then a business leader, and finally a philanthropist. And with every step forward, he remembered the day he was told he was not good enough. That moment, which was meant to break him, became the fire that shaped him. Years later, the same school that had once turned its back on him was struggling. Budgets were tight, classrooms were falling apart, and students lacked resources. That's when Marcus returned, not as a student, but as a man who had transformed his pain into power. He walked into the principal's office, not with anger, but with grace, and to everyone's shock, Marcus offered to donate millions of dollars to rebuild the school, to provide scholarships, to create opportunities for the very students who might otherwise be cast aside like he once was. The man who was expelled became the school's biggest donor. Marcus's story is not just about revenge, it's about strength, forgiveness, and transformation. It teaches us that even when society tries to silence or dismiss you, your strength can rewrite the ending. And that sometimes the greatest response to injustice is success. If you found this story inspiring, make sure to subscribe to Struggles 2025 to Strength, where we share powerful stories of resilience, hope, and transformation. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that could change the way you see the world. Marcus was a quiet but ambitious young black student, full of dreams and determination. Every day, he walked into his school with hope that his hard work would one day pay off. But the reality he faced was far harsher than his dreams. One morning, without warning, the principal called him into his office. Marcus was accused of being a troublemaker, of being a distraction, of not belonging there. The truth was different. He wasn't expelled because of anything he had done, but because of who he was. The color of his skin, the stereotypes that weighed heavy on society, and the principal's prejudice all combined to strip Marcus of his right to learn. He walked out of that school humiliated, carrying a pain so deep it threatened to crush him. That expulsion wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a message that said he was not worthy. But Marcus refused to let that message become his truth. Though broken inside, he chose strength over despair. He studied harder than ever, often working long hours to support himself, then staying awake deep into the night to read, to learn, to grow. Doors slammed in his face. People told him he would never succeed. But Marcus carried a fire that could not be put out. That rejection from school became his fuel. He built himself from the ground up, one step at a time, until he became not just successful, but unstoppable. Years of struggle turned him into an entrepreneur, a leader, and finally a philanthropist. His success wasn't just measured in money, but in the strength of character he built along the way. Every achievement was a reminder that he was not defined by that one cruel decision years ago. Then came the moment that shocked everyone. The same school that had once thrown Marcus away was falling apart. Its classrooms outdated, its students underfunded, its dreams fading. Marcus returned, but not as the broken boy they had expelled. He walked through those doors as a man who had turned pain into power. And instead of bitterness, he offered generosity. Marcus donated millions to rebuild the school, to provide scholarships, and to give opportunities to students who might otherwise face the same rejection he once did. The very student they cast out became the school's greatest donor. This story is more than revenge. It's about transformation, resilience, and the power of forgiveness. Marcus proved that the strongest response to injustice is success. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to Struggles to Unidentified Strength, where we share more powerful stories of hope, resilience, and triumph. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that could change your perspective and ignite your strength. Marcus had always been a quiet, determined student, someone who believed that education was his path to a brighter future. He came from humble beginnings, and every day he walked into school with pride, carrying the hope of his family on his shoulders. But one morning, his life was shaken in a way he never imagined. The principal called Marcus into his office, accusing him of being a distraction, a troublemaker, someone who didn't belong in those hallways. Marcus tried to defend himself, but the decision was already made. Without fair reason, without a chance to explain, he was expelled. His dreams were shattered in a single moment, not because of what he had done, but because of who he was. Humiliation cut deep, and he left that school with pain in his heart and tears in his eyes, carrying the weight of injustice that so many before him had also endured. But Marcus refused to let that day define his entire life. Instead of giving up, he turned his pain into power. He worked long hours after school, studied late into the night, and surrounded himself with mentors who believed in him when others didn't. Every rejection he faced, every doubt thrown at him became fuel for his determination. Slowly, Marcus carved out his own path. He became an entrepreneur, then a respected leader, and eventually a philanthropist. His success was not built on privilege, but on resilience and strength. Every achievement was a silent response to the moment he was told he wasn't good enough. He rose higher than anyone could have imagined, proving not only to himself, but to the world that no expulsion, no rejection, no injustice could silence his potential. Years later, when the school that had expelled him began to struggle, Marcus returned, not as a broken boy, but as a powerful man. The classrooms were falling apart, the students lacked resources, and the future of the school looked bleak. And in a twist no one could have predicted, Marcus became the school's biggest donor. He gave millions to rebuild the place that had once cast him aside, creating scholarships and opportunities so that no student would ever face what he had faced. The act was not revenge, but redemption. It was a message that forgiveness and strength can outshine bitterness and hate. Marcus's journey shows us that the greatest response to injustice is success, and that true strength comes not from what breaks you, but from how you rise after being broken. If you found this story inspiring, make sure to subscribe to Struggles to Strength, where we bring you more powerful stories of resilience, hope, and triumph. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that could spark your strength and transform your perspective. Marcus was just a young black student with big dreams, the kind of kid who believed education could change his life. Every day, he walked into school determined to prove himself, hoping that his hard work would open doors to a better future. But one day, everything changed. The principal, a man known for his coldness and unfair judgments, called Marcus into his office. Without evidence, without listening, he labeled Marcus as a troublemaker and claimed he was a bad influence. Then, in a single decision, Marcus was expelled. He hadn't committed any serious offense. It was prejudice, plain and simple. Walking out of that school, Marcus felt broken, humiliated, and betrayed by the very system that was supposed to guide him. That moment could have destroyed his future, but deep inside, Marcus promised himself that this injustice would not be the end of his story. Instead of giving up, Marcus turned his pain into determination. He worked long hours to support himself, studied harder than ever, and sought wisdom from mentors who believed in him. For years, he pushed forward, even when the world doubted him. He built a career step by step, starting from nothing and slowly, rising higher than anyone had expected. Marcus became a successful entrepreneur, then a respected leader, and eventually a philanthropist. What once felt like the end of his journey had only fueled a greater beginning. Every milestone in his life became a reminder that the principal's decision was wrong, that no one has the power to define your worth except you. Marcus proved that resilience, faith, and hard work could turn rejection into power. Years later, the school that had expelled him was on the brink of collapse. Funding was gone, classrooms were outdated, and students were losing hope. That's when Marcus returned, not as the rejected student they had once cast aside, but as a man of success and influence. To the shock of many, Marcus didn't come back with anger. He came back